turn-ins fantastic. Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and today we're going to talk about the glaring problem with some of my favorite daily drivers. And today, for example, we're going to use a 2014 BMW X3 M Sport. It's got an N55 single turbo twin scroll with 300 horsepower, 300 pound-feet of torque, and although it's all-wheel drive, it sends most of the torque to the rears unless it's necessary to go to the front. So it's a really fun, I guess, SUV to drive. But here's the problem. It had run flats. When you optioned the M Sport package, which frankly you gotta do because you get the good seats, you get cooler side skirts and all this other stuff, but when you option the M Sport package, it gave you run flat tires, as if that was an upgrade. So the standard tire on a lot of these daily drivable, enjoyable small SUVs and sedans, they put run flat tires on them. What a waste. And no matter how good your car is, no matter how good this engine is, how good this chassis is, how good the tuning and the suspension is, tires make all the difference. So Vredestein just sent me a set of these Hyper Tracks. It's an ultra high performance all season. And I know that sounds oxymoronic, but when you're not using this car on track, when you're not using it to go school people on and off ramps, which you could do with these tires, and we'll get to that soon, it's nice to have a quiet tire that's balanced, that doesn't wear prematurely. I love the N55. It is an incredibly smooth engine, and you're gonna notice, I know, I can't believe we're talking about tires and I have a blinking TPMS light. I think the receivers are dead on this car. I have checked everything and replaced the sensors in the wheels, so not to worry. We are not driving on flat tires. All right, let's get out on the road. I really do love this X3. But I gotta say, the right tires make the difference, because on the old OEM run flats, they were just so loud. They were hard. So why would you choose an all-season tire? In the past, I never recommended all seasons. In fact, you can hear me saying all seasons are no seasons because they're not particularly great in the snow, and the label all season makes it sound like it should perform properly in every season, but really it was just a compromise. Except now, in the past few years, we've started to see all seasons being used at autocrosses. I mean, I've seen people do really well at an autocross with a good all-season tire. They're now kind of the wet performance monsters that we really want in kind of like normal and mixed weather. Like, yes, you could drive this in very light snow, but if you're gonna be in the winter, I always recommend getting a set of snow tires as well. This particular all-season is really impressive because Vredestein has engineered these in order to be as good as new after 20,000 miles of use. The tread wear is 500 on this, which, yes, that is a kind of subjective, not exact science. When you look at tread wear doesn't mean this is an exact thing. It gives you an idea of how long. Ooh, that was a nice running of the red light or the stop sign. Good job. Good job, America. I guess that's a good segue into stopping distances at some point. But on your daily driver, you want your tires to last. It's not fun. It's not fun to put money into your daily driver, whether it's brakes or tires. They are consumables, but they can add up. Let's see if they make any noise off the line. Silly BMW blinker stock. I've owned these for years and I'm still not used to this. I'm still setting it off. If you've got sports cars and you're putting ultra high performance summer tires on all of your cars, you definitely know the pain it causes when you've got to replace them every like 10 to 20,000 miles, especially if you're hooning on them. Whereas if you've got an all season, that tread wear is going to be way better, because instead of having like a 200 tread wear tire, you've got a 500 tread wear tire that can still perform in the dry and the wet. Let's see how they handle an on-ramp. Little brake check. They talk a little bit, but they're not like loud, barking, squealing all seasons like I'm used to. I feel like every time I drive an all season, I'm like, oh, it's an all season, it's talking to me. This is definitely a softer tire. It feels like a softer tire than I would expect. If anything, it has amplified the capabilities of the X3, which is nice to see, because I'm not putting a max performance summer tire on this car. It's just not gonna happen. I'm not gonna do it. Ideally, your daily driver's tire is going to be a mix between performance, longevity, economy in terms of pricing, and comfort. And for right now, what I'm looking for in this tire is, are they quiet? Can I hear them? Yes. Is it an invasive sound? Absolutely not. And they're a heck of a lot quieter than the OEM run flats. And when you go to replace your tires with an OEM tire, I've always found that the OEM tire that originally came with the car seems to be outrageously priced. And if you're not a tire person, that can get tricky because you may not know what to look for in another tire. Sometimes it's difficult and people just settle for the expensive choice, the expensive easy choice of saying, well, this is what's on there, that's what I'll do again. Gotta say, I'm more confident than I expected to be on these. Trying to get him to bark a little bit, but you gotta push pretty hard. Vredestein's probably not a household name. If you are in the classic car market, then you definitely know Vredestein because they make a lot of like old school tread patterns for old school cars. Like when I drive a 356 Speedster, typically they have a classic Vredestein on them. So the tread pattern looks like it would have looked in, say, 1956 or 1958, but the compound is modern. So I'm not driving around on technology from the 1950s. I have the appearance, the period correct appearance of that tire. But Vredestein's actually been around for over 110 years, and they are credited with making the first high-performance winter tire. And if you've watched any of my M3 winter videos, you've certainly seen the Wintrack Pro in action. All right, we've got a left lane hog. We're gonna make the pass with our N55 torque. Isn't this nice? Oh, everyone's squeezing me out here. Absolutely ridiculous. So, this is the thing about having a good daily driver with some power, is it's easy to get there. I love driving N55 BMWs after coming out of an M3 because in order to get power out of my M3, I have to rev it to the moon. In an N55, you just lean on it a little bit, and even down low, you've got torque. It's on the move. Turn-in's fantastic. And they'll talk to you a little bit, but you're not losing a lot. Actually, you're getting a lot of auditory feedback before you actually lose the front end. That was like very, very minor amounts of understeer. This is a great tire. I mean, who thought I'd be out here in an X3 playing on a cloverleaf? Kudos to the X3, by the way. This is 2014. We're not talking about driving a new X3 competition here. We're talking about a 7-year-old X3 with probably one of the earlier iterations of the ZF8 speed before it became just like ubiquitous across the board. This thing really does the job. So in terms of a daily driver, I can't recommend this highly enough. This is awesome. Man, these are just silencing. Takes a bump really nicely. You know, people often forget that a tire is part of your suspension. When you have a very stiff sidewall on a tire with a run flat capability, your suspension is stiffer. You actually are like changing the dynamics of the car in usually a negative way. So here's what I'm gonna leave you with. All seasons are not what they used to be, and there's definitely not a cop ahead if he's going that fast. All seasons were always kind of a joke to me. I never would have outfitted my car with them, but now that I've started to drive some of these, and especially this Vredestein Hypertrack all season, the Ultra High Performance all season, I'm coming around. This is pretty impressive. And maybe this isn't gonna go on a car that you're gonna be out ripping canyon roads on, but maybe it is. Maybe you put this on your M3 because your M3 is used most of the time and you're sick of swapping tires and buying new ones every 12,000 miles because you're wearing them down. In addition to that, I would also recommend that you look deeper into tire brands because there's a lot of tires out there. There's a lot of good tires out there. There's a lot of great tires out there, and there's a lot of junky tires out there. And for whatever reason, especially with tires, we are very brand loyal. When you don't see the correct demarcation on the sidewall of a tire, suddenly you're turned off. And this is not a new phenomenon. We've had white walls for, generations before my dad, and that was a big status symbol as well. So having the right name on a tire does have some cachet. Vredestein has been pretty up and coming, and I think more and more people understand the brand and actually recognize it in America now, which is pretty great. And they've even put the work into hiring like a nice designer to make the sidewall look nice. That's a thing. That's a thing. Did you know that was a thing? That's a thing. But also, if you don't love driving your daily, it might be because you have junky tires on the car. Some cars are just bad, but some cars could be made a lot better with the right rubber. So thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you so much to the Patreon supporters who make this channel possible. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. It's important to remember that tire life is not just measured in tread depth. Their shelf life, whether they are being used or not, is somewhere between 5 and 7 years. If you have a 6-year-old tire, it's time to go buy some new rubber. And it's not like a switch flips after 6 years where boom, now they're not usable. No, over time, those tires are getting harder. They're getting less hydrated. They are going to be brittle. They are not going to function. They're just going to turn into hockey pucks. But like I said, it's not a light switch. It's a progressive evolution over time. So, the tire that you once had that was beautiful and great, 6 years later, even if you have tread on it, it's not going to handle and behave like it did when new.